Dudchik.
All right, guys. Hey, welcome to CalPro After Hours, where we have a lot more time, and we kind of do this even before the show. We were fired up about the federal government shutdown, what's happening in Connecticut. So we're going to talk a little more about the federal government shutdown, and Governor Lamont looking to provide a backstop for critical programs serving the state's most vulnerable population. Where does all this lead? It's a big game of hurry up and wait. Watch this one.
We're going to know so much more in the next couple of weeks, but Keith, probably these guys can't get their act together. We're probably going to have a shutdown. There are probably going to be some holes in the budget. We're probably going to have a special session between now and November 1st. And probably the later in the month, the more we will know.
So we'll talk special session in a little bit. But guys, where do we want to go with this? We had a spirited conversation before the show and also during the show about who's to blame for this. There's a lot to, as they say, break down on this one.
Washington is to blame, right? I mean, I think overall, and I've seen a lot of polling in the last 4 years about how dissatisfied people are with what happens in Washington. And it is across the board. People have genuine frustration over the fact that nothing seemingly can get done. And all they're being told by the people that are supposed to get something done is it's someone else's fault. And, you know, Brandon, I know you said we've got members of Congress in Connecticut's delegation that have taken a stand, but their stand is, this isn't my fault. This is someone else's fault, and I'm not going to take responsibility for fixing it. And sure, voters in Connecticut seemingly don't care because that is what they want from their Democrats in Congress. But in terms of how do we fix this going forward, you need to send people to Congress who want to get things done and are not afraid to work across the aisle. And we have the most partisan congressional delegation in the country.
Liz, to your point, and it came up earlier, so I want to circle back a little bit with that 2017 budget, right? Think about what happened, and you are absolutely correct. The Republicans did 2 or 3 budgets during the session, and the amendment that passed the Senate was the Republican amendment. But then when the governor vetoed it, everything was at a standstill.
Yeah.
Nobody was talking. So I, with my House Democratic Caucus members, we started meeting every day of the week for 3 hours, you remember, and it was open doors. Anybody was welcome, a member, a staff person, the other caucuses. Eventually, to your point, and probably against their better political instincts, Len Fasano, Themis Claridis, and very importantly, Vin Candelora came at the end to help us get over the finish line. That's what we need now. So get away from the cameras, get away from the press conferences, sit in a room with your budget books in front of you and welcome anybody to come to the table to come up with the ideas. But with the administration not living up to what they agree to in that room does make it more problematic, and they have to find a way to
And that's the rub, John McCain, that Murphy would say. Why would we pass this if it's been proven that as soon as we pass it, they'll do whatever they want?
But Senator Murphy and every single Democratic senator, just like every single Republican senator, when the shoe is on the other foot, have said, don't shut the government down over policy differences. Let's do a clean CR, just keep it open, and that way we can sit down and discuss the policy differences. Senator Murphy thought that was the way to do it when he was in power. Now he says that's not the way to do it. Look, I think the other thing we're missing here, people aren't talking about a lot, but one of the policy differences is obviously under health care, right? I think it is the Democratic position that health care should be given to everyone in this country, regardless of their status. The Republicans don't agree with that. I think most of the country's probably on the Republican side, but states do it. California does it with Medi-Cal, New York does it, Connecticut does it. And money is fungible, right? The federal government can reimburse you for Medicare, Medicaid, those types of things, and then the state can use that money that's freed up to give health care to people who are not documented. I think what we're seeing here is a very almost Reagan-like traditional Republican plan, which is if states want to do that, go ahead. You have the right to do it, but you're going to do it on your dime, not on the federal government's dime, which is all of the people in the country. The people in Oklahoma would probably vote not to give health care to undocumented immigrants. The people in California would vote overwhelmingly to do it. So let California do it.
Yeah, John, I agree with that. But part of the problem that's being captured in this is the folks that we urged to get on health care. Because remember what was happening in our hospitals. We had a fund essentially pay for people that didn't have any insurance.
The old uncompensated care fund.
Correct.
Yes, and that existed. So when,
And it worked.
when Obamacare came out, one of our pushes, all of us, were get on insurance. We don't want these surprise costs. We don't know what's coming in the door. Get on insurance. Can we at least agree that immigrant issue to the side, under this current plan, within 30 days, all those folks that are on Obamacare, their premiums are going to double?
But so hold on.
Right?
Hold on. I think there's.
That's what we're
But-
talking about, healthcare coverage.
But right now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics recently came out with a report. that
Before or
said-
after he fired the one guy, the person
This is
numbers they didn't like.
this is an old report. 74% of people who work part-time, full-time have access to employer health care. 65%.
That's if they're allowed to work 40 hours a week.
No, whether you're part-time or not part-time, 74% of employees have access to employer-provided health care. Only 65% take it. So now, where is that delta? Part of it might be, you're a state employee, your spouse isn't.
Yeah.
Your spouse is going to take your health insurance. But the other part is people who are saying, wait a minute, my employer's health insurance is more expensive than Obamacare because Obamacare's got the subsidies. Obamacare was not intended to replace employer health care. It was intended, the rules say, only for people who don't have access to affordable health care.
Right.
And I think that's the rub here that ends up being billions of dollars.
Yeah. So if we can get to the table and agree that that subsidy, because let's say it is good public policy, is transferable either to the Obamacare or the network care offered by the employee, do we get there?
Democrats would never vote for that, but you'd get there
So let's do it.
because you'd
Like,
be
what are we
helping
waiting
private
for?
insurers.
So I love this.
You wrap it.
The very wonky talk here. But to bring it back
I
to
was
the
not
coffee.
wonky, just so we're
Yeah,
clear.
you and I. Yeah. So I think all of our congressional folks, you usually want to see an end, right, to a federal government shutdown.
Nobody wants it. You're right.
Nobody wants it.
Right.
But I believe, this is me, from my perspective, this is an opportunity for the Trump administration, once again, to steamroll and bulldoze through with what it is that he and his folks put in place to really demolish our government. And from my perspective, this thing, it doesn't feel good. So while we're saying it's important, we want to provide access to jobs and health care,
Let me
do we really?
put you on the spot.
You wrap
me
it.
on the spot.
Okay,
Quickly, let me
then
put you
wrap
on the
it. We
spot.
got more to talk about here.
You
Come
think
on.
if Trump's going to use the government shutdown to steamroll and really hurt government, wouldn't you vote for the clean CR?
Not absent of helping the American people with health care.
But you're saying if we don't have it, he's going to do worse.
He's doing it
That's
now,
the way to
but that's not.
govern.
Wait,
Sure
one
it is,
se-
Joe.
just
It's
one-
often the lesser
one-
of two evils.
One
Come
quick
on.
point. One quick
Come
point.
on.
All right, topic B.
You
Topic B.
You can't have
Topic B.
Democrats
B for Brandon.
defending
Don't let the
government.
perfect be the
It
enemy
is-
of the good.
It is after hours.
It's not like I said that.
We don't have hours.
Okay.
All right, hey, so it's McKinney's favorite acronym, PURA. The governor asked this week how the job search is going, finding candidates to fill the seats on the state's Public Utilities Regulatory Board. Let's just say finding people for the gig hasn't been easy. Look at this.
I'm finding we're working as hard as we can to get those 5 nominees there. And we've interviewed an awful lot of people. To be blunt, I've been turned down more than a few times, too. I can get 5 generalists on there pretty quickly if that's good enough for you. I'd also like a couple of people who really can match wits with Eversource and UI who can hit the ground running because we have some big dockets in front of us.
Is the Nedster looking for exactly? Well, tell us, Ned. Well, let's go.
Folks, who know a lot about regulation, maybe have a business and finance sense, who could, be able to ascertain whether whatever source is telling us, meets credibility. And I've got lots of retired people who would love to sit on this board, and we'll have some of those on there, which is often our norm. But I also need some folks who really can match wits.
So famous Bill Murray and Stripes. Groundhog Day. Me again, me again. No one wants this,
Are you
guys.
in? Are you in, Tom?
Oh no, there's a lot of
crazy.
people.
Well, it's-
Trust me, there are a lot of people who want it. The governor's looking for specific things in at least one of the 2 of the 5. He said he's going to put 5 on lists. That's a victory.
We'll see.
But I think, the other issue, we talked about this really quickly. I think I served with him. I love Mike Caron. He's
Great
one
guy.
of the better people you'll ever meet. If the governor doesn't reappoint him, he's then left with a Pura board where David Arconti, who we also like, is still very, very new. And I think you need that one institutional voice in there when you bring in essentially 4 new people.
Yeah, and I think it's important to add, and I'm glad you brought up Michael Caron, because look how he went about this, right? He knew what the chair was doing under the rules of Pura wasn't correct. He didn't go to the press. He went to a friendly face, a Republican leader, and said, hey, this is what's going on. The minority leader, to his credit, again, went about a thorough trying to get to the bottom of it, brought people in, had discussions. Mike Caron still sat there quietly, even when he knew it was all playing out. And then ultimately, when he was asked through the right channels, where's the letter? He's like, here's the letter. That's the type of person you want there. I don't care about the qualifications. Be fair. Follow the law. If you need to go after the utility, go after the utility, but make sure it's grounded in fact. And I think that's what hurt Pura the most. They were operating in this same thing we're doing with the shutdown. There's this public relations nightmare that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And ultimately, we were all losing. So Governor Lamont put on people with real good knowledge, but just fair people that understand the process.
Look, we appoint judges all the time. And not everyone who's appointed as a judge has done every aspect of the law, right? Some have never done criminal law,
Yes.
but they end up doing criminal law. And I think that you're exactly right. I think he's looking for a needle in the haystack. And I think he just needs to expand what he thinks the qualifications are, and he'll find good.
Because it was through the years that most of the commissioners had their area of expertise.
Sure.
So you may be a commissioner, you understood telecom really well, and you were another commissioner, and you understood the energy sector really well, and wheeling power, and transmission and distribution. And so maybe the best thing is more generalists, guys.
Or how about maybe we just have Pura commissioners who are not constantly in the news?
Yes.
I mean, since when have regulators,
Make it
and to
boring
your
again?
point about judges, that is not your job, right? I mean, yes, make
Correct.
Pura boring again. I mean, this is a job for regulators. This is not a job for someone who's looking to use this as a platform to create their own sort of legacy. I mean, to me, it's a cop-out. You're the governor of the state of Connecticut. You telling people you can't find people to serve when you're trying to decide and convince people that you ought to be the governor of the state of Connecticut for the next 4 years, you need to do better than that. Because what you're essentially telling people is, I can't do this. You're the governor. Come on, that's
I
a
disagree.
cop-out.
Who
I
wants to
think
serve
that-
in this day and
I
age?
believe Ned Lamont, typical, opens up the table and bring people around to identify the right person, right? And bring all stakeholders to the table. So I wouldn't say he's just like relinquishing all of his power and authority around this, but I would say I'd love to see someone who truly understands and can support the voices of the most vulnerable, and coupled with everything that all of you are saying, and perhaps a generalist.
And maybe some diversity
but I
for a
think-
change
Well,
on
that
the
would-
board.
wouldn't
Hold
that
on,
be
but I
nice?
just want to quickly. Look, he did say I could get 5 generalists quickly.
Yeah.
He's right. So I think he's looking for something much more specific. Liz, you're right about regulators, but I was going to use the analogy of they're supposed to be umpires, right? Calling balls and strikes, but the umpires are terrible now. But
They
when
need
you- I
replay.
think when you talk about someone on there who's going to see care for people who are underserved, that's the consumer advocates. That's the consumer council. And I think we could do a better job with getting that person who's going to be the clash
No, they don't.
with the utility.
But that
They
would
don't.
never work.
They don't fund them enough, guys.
No, but
John,
that's the governor said I
Well,
want
and-
someone to match
and
with
same
the
with- same
utility
with- same
company.
with-
That's the consumer council.
But let's go back to the legislature, right? Like, we were generalists. We didn't know everything about, but what did we do?
Well,
We're in.
some of us did.
Oh, John, you might have.
John, you know everything.
But we brought experts in. Why not just expand a couple of the
All right, we gotta wrap
slots
this
for staff?
We got to wrap it, guys.
Yeah,
All right.
no.
Take a quick break.
We could
and
solve
goody
this
goody
problem.
gumdrops. We're going to talk about Costas Tomatis when we get back. How about that, huh?
Oy, oy.
Now, things could get really interesting this week when criminal trial gets underway for former state deputy budget director Costa Diamantis. You may recall Diamantis is accused of abusing his position to solicit bribes from contractors in exchange for work on school construction projects across the state. Guys, a lot of names close to the governor on the witness list. May even call the governor himself. Who else? Who else may be on in the arm's way here?
Well, this has been a saga that's gone on for quite some time.
Yeah, long time.
The FBI and the Department of Justice, the Biden Department of Justice, was in on this during the last gubernatorial campaign. So I think Republicans salivating at this as an opportunity to strike need to remember that this was something that was, this was prosecuted in the last gubernatorial campaign. Be wary of how you go make those arguments.
Or poking the bear, as they would say.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, hold accountable, but I wouldn't get too excited that this is like your number one issue. I think you've got to be thoughtful.
And look, I served with Costa, not for very long, don't know him all that well, don't know his attorney at all that well, but it really appears to me, looking at the witness list, looking how this trial is setting up, this is going to be a scorched earth. If I'm going to prison, I'm going to hurt other people along the way. I think based upon the evidence I've seen, and again, just my opinion, it's an uphill fight. I mean, you have them on tape, you have them accepting the money, it's pretty lock solid. So I think that the tact is, we're going to damage everybody in the world. I think the judge will step in and keep it within the guardrails, or at least I hope.
You know, his attorney, Norm Pattis, is pretty well known. This is part of the strategy, right? Deflect, pressure, cause trouble for other people to see if there's some way that people are going to come together and maybe cut a deal. Whether he crosses the line or not, we'll see. But it's a strategic decision to put the name of the governor and those people on the witness list. It's not about whether they're actually going to help the case.
Well, it gets a lot of headlines. It gets people talking about something other than the person who's clearly done the wrong in this situation.
Right. In fact, Attorney Pattis actually moved to court to say, we want to get the date for the trial, for the picking the jury rescheduled. And he gave multiple reasons. One of them is, well, now that there's a federal government shutdown, we might not get people coming in the jury pool. Another one is, now that there's a federal government shutdown, people might be more inclined to look poorly on my client because
you think it'd be the opposite.
But
it's just throw everything at the wall and hope something sticks.
I think politically, obviously, this is a very nuanced and difficult thing to make stick on the governor. On a policy point, though, I think that what we have seen over and over and over again are breakdowns of good governance and individual actors in the Lamont administration who have taken advantage and obfuscated good government laws and ethics over and over and over again. I think you're going to continue to see House Republican leader Vin Candelora and his caucus in particular continue to fight on these issues, because it is important that we address policy issues that allow for these things to happen, like putting the school construction under DAS, right? I mean, these were intentional things that were done in order to corrupt the system that have cost taxpayers and have cost the state of Connecticut yet again with a corruption scandal. So from a policy perspective, I would imagine you're going to continue to see this as an issue that Republicans dog in the legislature, especially with what's going on with Senator
Never should have happened with school construction.
Never should have happened.
And we haven't seen a good political trial in a couple of years, huh? So I'm kind of looking forward to
I think we were all happy to
political
not
corruption
have,
trial,
We don't want any more.
There was times where we were kind of like pretty much enraptured by political trials and corruption, and it's kind of calmed down for a while.
That's a good thing.
Maybe Costa can call the Blagojevich from Illinois and say, "Hey, how'd you get that pardon from Trump?"
Yeah, well, there was
Rowland got one too.
There was talk.
John Rowland definitely.
Yeah, but the Democrats, Blagojevich, he was one of yours.
It is disappointing, and I do agree that Governor Jody Rell was a breath of fresh air coming off all the Rowland scandals. That again,
Just don't give Liz any.
The reality is, I do love
anything to
I
talk
love
about
government.
fodder here.
I do,
Jeez.
and I may be the minority.
Base
what
closures.
we do, whether it's political party or not, we try, and we get it wrong sometimes.
Even that wasn't free of controversy with the one fundraiser.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the nukes. Go nukes, guys. All right.
using.
Correct.
She's still talking about Lisa Moody and
Big government.
and
big government.
BRAC base closures and more Mother Rel stuff, huh? Rel
And the
Center.
AUKUS deal going
All right, guys. Hey, we talked about Pura earlier and energy and power and how we generate it. Definitely on the mind of the governor last week. Ned was in Waterford to help celebrate the 50th anniversary of Unit 2 at the Millstone Nuclear Power Plant. Lamont saying, I would put my chips on nuclear. I just think it's going to be a big piece of our state and region's future for the next 50 years. Guys, pass me the potassium iodine bottle. I'm so old that I remember when I was a kid growing up in Ansonia, they would take us on field trips to go to Millstone, and they had a big education center, and you'd go there, and there's these big things and buttons you'd push, and a big voice like the future of energy in America,
I thought you were going to say they took you to 3 Mile Island.
But how times changed. Cerulli said nowadays when he went up there to do the press conference, they had dogs crawling through his cars looking for, bad stuff as you're about to go into a nuclear reactor facility. So, they're not doing any busloads of little kids from Ansonia anymore. Huh?
That feels like a Simpsons episode.
I mean,
That's true.
You know what? The governor, Liz has talked about an all of the above strategy. It is the right strategy. And the governor has been very, involved in looking at nuclear, and I forget what the mini nuclear reactors are called. The problem is the red tape in government. It might take you 10 years.
There's not red tape in government. That doesn't exist.
It will take a long time. It will take a long time.
We should call it blue tape.
It will take a long time to permit the pipeline through New York if we were to get that gas.
That's true, too.
That could be instantaneous.
Right.
We have all these other contiguous states that want to send us the natural gas, and they just can't get it here, and it's affecting our ratepayers. I think Ned Lamont has been able to really be the advocate for the ratepayers, whether they be businesses, because that's the number one question they ask when they meet with Dan O'Keefe. It's like, okay, what are the power costs? They go through them, and it hurts our ability to attract more people. So his all or anything strategy, and he does take flack for it, is great. I think the next step is really sitting down with the business leader, community leaders, the utilities, the regulators, come up with a strategy. We don't have a long-term strategy for energy use and how to bring the bills down, and we have infrastructure
I think the
issues.
next,
You've been saying
the
that.
next
I
political
have.
step is to talk to the environmental movement and find out why they're so opposed to nuclear energy.
But I also think in order to do that, you need predictability, and that has been really lacking under Marissa Gillette's leadership on Pura, right? I mean, and you have the ratings agencies downgrading our utility companies because of what's happening and the lack of stability at Pura. You need predictability, and that is an important part of the conversation about what are we doing and how are we doing it. And I think Pura also needs to not be a policy decision maker. We need to leave that to the policymakers and leave regulating to the regulators.
So here's where I get a little, not confused, but kind of challenged in my thinking on this. One thing I did appreciate about Gillette, we can talk about everything else that we didn't appreciate. She was an advocate, and she really held a lot of feet to the fire and made people uncomfortable. She did the job, right? And so I know there are disagreements, but it's like, we want this glass full of what we want, but then we want it at a certain temperature. But can you just do?
But are you supposed to be an
But
advocate?
that's not her job to be an advocate, right?
But yes and no.
She's a referee.
Yes and no.
That's not an advocate. Referees
but
call
balls and
balls
strikes.
strikes.
Brandon, I agree
So-
with you on this. She angered the utilities and fought back at them at a rate that previous Pura commissioners and
Did
boards
not.
never did.
That's right.
And that's part of it. They did not like her. But I think there is a stop where you are the regulator and you are simply the
Sure.
advocate.
I will go.
But I thought she did
I will
something
go
big.
a step further in typical Joe A to Z fashion. I'm going to split the middle. I will say to you this: if Marissa Gillette was just a commission member and not the chair, and
still be
held
there.
some of her same views, but didn't manipulate the policy and procedures and the practice books of how Pura is supposed to run, I think most of us would be like, not sure if she should be doing it, but no harm, no foul. She's advocating. When she is the chair,
That's good.
Right.
The buck
It was
stops.
the internal
Right.
politics and then her performance.
All right, for Capital Report After Hours, we're going to let Lizzie take a shot. Come on.
Oh, Liz.
I was
go.
I want the assist.
Let's
Give
go.
it back.
Oh, no.
What is this?
The release, it was awesome.
That's the she needs.
shot.
It's like
That
a
was
hook.
great. John, you need to take lessons.
Right, exactly.
Look, she can do it from now on.
That was
Go.
good.
Pretty good.
John's like, This guy's just picked on me all day today. I'm out.